Right ventricle is a triangular chamber which receives blood from right atrium and pumps it to the lungs through pulmonary trunk and pulmonary arteries. It forms the inferior border and 2/3 part of sternocostal surface and 1/3 part of inferior surface of heart. Now, external features. Externally, right ventricle has two surfaces, anterior and inferior surfaces. Inferior surface has two parts. Interior surface has two parts. Inflowing part is rough due to the presence of muscular ridges called trabeculae corneae. It develops from proximal part of bulbous cordis of the heart tube. The outflowing part or infundibulum is smooth and forms the upper conical part of the right ventricle, which gives rise to the pulmonary trunk. It develops from mid portion of bulbous cordis. The two parts are separated by the muscular ridge called supraventricular crest or infundibuloventricular crest, situated between the tricuspid and pulmonary orifices. Internal features. The interior shows two orifices. The right atrioventricular or tricuspid orifice guarded by tricuspid wall. The pulmonary orifice guarded by pulmonary wall. The interior of the following parts show trabeculae corneae or the muscular ridges of three types. 1. Ridges or fixed elevations. 2. Bridges. 3. Pillars or papillary muscles, with one attached to the ventricular wall and the other connected to the cusps by chordae tendineae. There are three types of papillary muscles. They are anterior, posterior and septal. The anterior is the largest. Posterior or inferior muscle is a small and irregular. The septal muscle is divided into little nipples. Each papillary muscle is attached by chordae tendineae to contiguous sides of cusps. The septomarginal trabecula or the moderator band is muscular ridge extending from ventricular septum to the base of anterior papillary muscle. It contains right branch of AV bundle. The cavity of the left ventricle is crescentic in section because of the forward bulge of interventricular septum. The wall of right ventricle is thinner than that of the left ventricle in a ratio of 1:3. Right atrium. Right atrium is the upper chamber of the heart. It receives the venous blood from the whole body and pumps to the right ventricle through the right atrioventricular or tricuspid opening. It forms the right border, a part of upper border, sternocostal surface and the base of the heart. External features. The chamber is elongated vertically, receiving the superior vena cava at the upper end and inferior vena cava at the lower end. The upper end is prolonged to the left to form right auricle. The auricle covers the root of ascending aorta and partly overlaps the infundibulum of the right ventricle. Its margins are notched and the interior is sponge-like, which prevents the free flow of blood. Along the right border of the atrium, there is a shallow vertical groove which passes from the superior vena cava to inferior vena cava. This groove is called sulcus terminalis. It is produced by internal muscular ridge called crista terminalis. The upper part of the sulcus contains SAN, which acts as the pacemaker of the heart. The right atrioventricular groove separates the right atrium from the right ventricle. It is more or less vertical and lodges the right coronary artery and the small cardiac vein. Next, tributaries or inlets of the right atrium. You have superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, coronary sinus, anterior cardiac veins, venae cordis minimi. Next, right atrioventricular orifice. Blood passes out of the right atrium through the right atrioventricular or tricuspid orifice and goes to the right ventricle. The tricuspid orifice is guarded by tricuspid wall, which maintains the unidirectional flow of the blood. Now, internal features. Interior of the right atrium can be broadly divided into three parts. They are smooth posterior part or sinus venerum, rough anterior part or pectinate part including the auricle, and interatrial septum. Now first one, smooth posterior part. Developmentally it is derived from right horn of sinus venosus. Most of the tributaries except the anterior cardiac vein opens in it. That is, you have superior vena cava opens at the upper end, inferior vena cava opens at the lower end. The opening of inferior vena is guarded by rudimentary wall of inferior vena cava or Eustachian valve. During embryonic life, the valves guides the inferior vena cava blood to the left atrium through foramen ovale. The coronary sinus opens between the opening of inferior vena cava and the right atrioventricular orifice. The opening is guided by the wall of coronary sinus or Thebesian wall. The venae cordis minime are numerous small veins present in the walls of all the four chambers. They open into the right atrium through a small foramen. The intravenous tubercle or lower is a very small projection scarcely visible on the posterior wall of the atrium just below the opening of superior vena cava. During embryonic life, it directs the superior vena cava blood to the right ventricle. Now, the rough anterior part, developmentally it is derived from primitive atrial chamber. It represents a series of transverse muscular ridges called musculi pectinati. They arise from crista terminalis and run forwards and downwards towards the atrioventricular orifice, giving the appearance of a teeth of a comb. In an auricle, these muscles are interconnected to form a reticular network. Now, interatrial septum. Developmentally, it is derived from septum primum, septum secundum. It presents the fossa ovalis, a shallow sausage-shaped depression in the lower part. The fossa represents the site of embryonic septum primum. The annulus ovalis or limbus fossa ovalis is a prominent margin of fossa ovalis. It represents the lower free edge of the septum secundum. It is distinct above and at the sides of the fossa ovalis but deficient inferiorly. Its anterior edge is continuous with the left end of the wall of the inferior vena cava. The remains of the foramen ovale are occasionally present. This is a small slit-like opening between the upper part of the fossa and the limbus. It is normally occluded after birth but may sometimes also persist.